So tell me about the results last night. You had a not insignificant amount of people voted for you yesterday, enough to force a runoff. What message did that send you in terms of what people in Georgia think about the Libertarian Party?
Well, to me the message is clear. 80,000 plus voters have decided that the two-party system does not represent them, and they want a choice outside of the two-party system. That says to me that we need to open up our democracy to more choices and more voices so we have a more representative United States Senate and democracy overall.
What do you see as the future for libertarians, not just in Atlanta and Fulton County, but in Georgia as a whole? What do you see as the next step?
Well, I see, so long as we're speaking a message that appeals to the voters and we're going to the voters where they are and we're speaking a message that resonates with them, I think we're going to see continued growth in the Libertarian Party. It's up to us to provide that alternative to the two-party system, and I think we're going to rise to that challenge.
What about you personally? What's a next step for you? Do you plan to run for office again in the future?
I don't know if I'll ever run for office again. I do know I'm going to get back to the on-the-street citizen activism that that got me started in politics in the first place when I started marching against the war in Iraq and for justice reform. So I'm going to get back to that. If I ever run again, who knows? I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, but I'm going to keep trying to fight for the voices that want something independent of the two parties.
What do you see as the key issues that make people turn away from Republicans, turn away from the Democrats, and they see what do you see as the issues that libertarians stand for that are really resonating with people right now?
Well, I think it's a broad array of issues that a majority of Americans agree upon, but that nothing gets done with. A broad majority of Americans want comprehensive immigration reform so that we can make the immigration system simpler and easier to understand, and so that way we're not caging people, but that never gets done due to hyper-partisanship. You can say the same thing with balancing our federal budget, or passing meaningful justice reforms, or a foreign policy that's more rooted in peace and nuclear non-proliferation. But the problem is we have structural problems with the United States Senate, and nothing gets done because of hyperpartisanship. So at the core of everything is the fact that the two parties keep pushing themselves further away, and that puts them further away from the average voter.
I think you nailed it right there. I mean, even with the vice president and at a 50-person majority, what got done these last 2 years?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of issues that really need both sides to come to the table and get things done. The reason why I ran is because I wanted to be an honest broker for the people of Georgia, and I think whomever wins this election needs to take that to heart and actually try to work across the aisle and get things done.
Speaking of which, what do you make of this runoff? What do
Well,
you think of the runoff? What comes to mind?
Well, it's a classic lesser of two evils thing, right? That's what most people are going to go there to vote for. A lot of people are not enthusiastic about either choice, but they're going to pick their poison, so to speak. And that's the way our runoffs work. Now, I wish I actually advocate for ranked choice voting, which makes the runoffs instant, so we don't have to wait weeks and have millions of taxpayer dollars spent and even more millions worth of ads that go on our airwaves that we're all tired of watching on YouTube and television. So I'll provide that solution so we don't have runoffs ever again.
Took the words right out of my mouth. A Kennesaw State professor had a report recently that said runoffs are essentially a waste of everyone's time and money. And I was going to ask you about ranked choice, but clearly that's a priority for you.
Yeah, I think if we can get ranked choice voting passed in the next legislative session, that will show that we want our democracy to be responsive, that we want those more choices and more voices for the voters, and also save the taxpayers time and money. And I say we should get it done.
Between Warnock and Mr. Walker, do you plan to support either of these two candidates going forward?
I'm not going to endorse either candidate. It's not my job to tell the voters where to place their vote and their trust. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to both campaigns and see if they want to come to a forum to speak to libertarian voters in long form, not 1-minute debate answers, but actually have a conversation. I'm willing to facilitate that conversation so they can speak to the voters themselves.
And we'll just kind of wrap it up with this. How do we want to phrase this? If those 80,000 some folks, what would you tell them? What would you say to them as they potentially are unenthusiastic maybe about heading back to the polls again? What would you tell these folks who supported you?
Well, I would tell them to pay attention to the two candidates that are left, listen to what they have to say, and if they speak a message that you agree with more than the other one, feel free to go vote or not vote if that's your choice. Your vote is your voice, and you have a right to use it if you so choose.
I think a lot of people don't talk about that choosing to stay home while if you're registered, that's also a message, right?
Well, I think that we see that routinely. If not voted was actually on the ballot, they would win nearly every election in this country, and that's something that the two-party system has facilitated as well. Again, that's the reason why we need more choices on our ballots, so we can get more people out to vote.
All right. Is there anything like to share with me that we didn't touch on?
I was really honored to get that 80,000 votes and be someone that 80,000 people could place their trust in. And I'm going to keep speaking the message of maximum freedom for every person.
What can libertarians do next time in the general? What can, whether it's the libertarian candidate for president or the next person running for governor or senator or running against Senator Ossoff maybe, what advice would you give them to continue this success?
Do exactly what I did. Get out and meet the voters exactly where they are and speak to their issues. Don't speak like you're a college professor. Speak like you're somebody who's having a real conversation with people, because that's what resonates. You have to be able to connect with the voter, and that's how they connect with your ideas. They have to connect with you as a person first. You can have the best ideas in the world, but if you're not ready to communicate that where the voters are, it will never ever resonate. So I tell all libertarian, all independent, all third-party voters, take the time to go meet the voters where they are and knock on lots of doors.